Hello, guys, and welcome back to the Home Turn YouTube channel. It's your presenter Josh back again. I hope you're all doing well this fine week. And thank you so much for everyone that's tuned in previously to our Cheltenham previews. We've had the Cheltenham Novices and Juvenile Hurdle preview was posted on Monday, and then we also then should have had by the time this video comes out the Cheltenham Novice Chases, and then looking at the Champion Bumper as well. That preview video will be up on Thursday morning at 9 a.m. This should be up hopefully by Friday morning. I'm looking towards the action this weekend at Kempton and a little bit of the action on the flat at Southwell, just with the Winter Derby Group 3 that's there. We'll see Kempton, we've got the likes of the Adonis Hurdle, we're going to have the Dovecote Novices Hurdle, and we've also got the Pendil Novices Chase, along with a Premier Handicap. Focus looking towards Kempton, not Chepstow and Warwick for Saturday, just to slim it down. As I said, the racing I wouldn't say is to the top of qualities. Now pushing towards the festival only in a few weeks' time, but still I think there's some selections at the top end that we could look to hopefully um, get for you guys. So as I said, we're going to jump straight into the action at Kempton on Saturday with the first, which is the 115, the Coral Racing Club Handicap Hurdle. It's a 2 mile, 5 furlong race. It's a handicap hurdle with a class of 3. At the moment, obviously, pre-declarations, there are around 23 um, current entries, and I think obviously the field likely is going to thin out a little bit. I think Pentland Hills is topping the weights at the moment with a rating of 142. I'm not necessarily sure if he'll go here for Nicky Henderson again with Noah Joe at 140. I think he may always drop out as well. The one potentially that could stay in here, I just noticed as well that Mark of Gold of Gary Moores is in here. I think he'll drop out. He'll have targets towards Cheltenham. So would Dolly the Great as well. And then at least one of the David Maxwell horses is entered in here. Obviously, Joker Demai landed a big gamble for Harry Dunham and David Maxwell when he won at Lingfield, but then slightly got away from him at Exeter when he probably should have won. But I'm not going to judge the rider there. If you want to think of interest, if he is ended up declared, would be Paul Nicholls trained Largy Poet. I think he very unexposed still a novice as a hurdler. Um, Having won last time out at Exeter in the end of January. He's only ran, it would have been 22 days ago, but I think he potentially, if he is quick to turn around, I think he will go here with a chance. Won that novices hurdle extra fairly well, won by 12 lengths against El Granjo of Clive Brothelby Brooks. I'm not necessarily sure what he's beaten in that race, but he did it um, really well in his maiden hurdle there and did that with a lot of class. Obviously, he was second just after Boxing Day to Manila Blueway at Chepstow. The run before then on completely bottomless ground. And then I was obviously in his point to point, funny enough, was 5 lengths behind Jasmine DeVoe, who is a strong contender for this year's champion bumper, which you can obviously hear a little bit more about in our preview video. So I think he holds a very strong level of current form, considering how unexposed he potentially is. He is, as I said, has only run twice over hurdles, placed once behind Manila Blueway, and then won a very posily at Exeter on his maiden hurdle. Actually ended up winning by 12 lengths, as I said. So I think off a mark of, I think he's 128 now, I believe, 127. Still very well treated and potentially very unexposed, sorry, in handicap company, especially with a few older types in here who are on the downward spiral. He suddenly is only really going one way, and that should be up. So he will proceed nicely. So as I said, if he is declared, he may be of interest. That'd be Largy Poet in the first to 115, depending on his price again, obviously. But this is the pre-declaration, so I wouldn't have accurate prices at the moment for that. Now looking then to the next race on the card, which would be the 150. That is the Adonis Juvenile Hurdle, the Grade 2, probably the showcase race of the day. Used to be a massive pointer to Cheltenham, but I don't think it necessarily will be this year for the Triumph. With Caliph de Burlays heading the market now at evens pre-declarations, as I said, after entries. He's won very impressively on his hurdling debut in the UK at Kempton in January, where he completely stormed home against a certain roaring legend of Ollie Murphy's by 7.5 lengths. He jumped amazingly that day. He looks like a chaser in the making. And obviously, Paul Nicholls highlighted him as a potential Gold Cup horse for a few years down the line. I say he jumped amazing. He jumped like a chaser, I think, but he did jump out to his left that day, quite noticeably, I would say. But he just had a significantly a much greater amount of class compared to a lot of these his rivals in that field, and he would take all the beating here at evens. I think even with his jumping, it's probably imagine that would have slickened up as well. I wouldn't necessarily want to be taking him on, especially at the prices, because the one I think that potentially would give him his closest run to money is Harry Dunham's trained Givemefive. Funnily enough, obviously Harry Dunham used to be assistant trainer at Paul Nicholls, has started branch off on his own and has been very successful in his first full season. Um, was won two times for Harry Dunham, one at Market Raisin and then one at Warwick in January. The Warwick race was particularly of note as he won by 18 lengths against Orchestra of Fergal O'Brien's. Absolutely hosed up that day and looked all class. And I think if there's one to really give Calita Burles a run for his money, it is going to be Givemefive. And I think he could actually go fairly close in this. I really do. I like his ability quite significantly because I'd say Orchestra from the British juvenile perspective is a fairly decent yardstick, having um, run up behind a certain Swift Hawk, who's also in this at 10-1. Swift Hawk beat him that day by 5 lengths at Taunton the next time out. But Givemefive obviously had smashed him up 18 lengths, now 7-2. I'd say worthy second favourite in the race. And I think I wouldn't say I'd put anyone off having a punt on him at 7-2. I do think Calita Burles could be very special though, so it's probably worth letting it be. I don't think any of these are heading to Cheltenham, potentially peaking up or maybe for the Moors, but uh, I don't necessarily see any of these being really challenges in the Triumph. As I said, Calvin Burles is not, even said he's not going to go to Cheltenham anyway this year, so he won't play a factor. But I just would say Givemefive could give him a serious run for his money potentially, but it wouldn't be a tip as per se. I just think he could go very well. The race after that will be the 227, which will be the Pendil's Novices Chase. That is a grade two as well, over 2.5 miles. Obviously, Nickelback heads the field after he ran out a massive winner of the Scilly Isles Grade One chase at Sandown last time out. Only would have been um, start of this month or end of last month, so only 21 days ago. He did that, ran out very impressively that day, just got off on the front end and never looked like he was coming back. Obviously, sadly, that was the race of Hermes Allen. Fatally fell, which was kind of really horrible, but did give Sarah Humphrey, James Best, their first Grade One winner, and he was deserving on the day. Obviously, out jumped and just out travelled everything in the race. I think maybe some of the riders in behind, the likes of Hermes Allen, obviously RIP, Jello, Le Patron, maybe want to potentially be up a little bit more on the pace with Nickelback, as they did just give him a really, really soft lead in that. But he was definitely the worthy winner of the race. He jumped to perfection that day, and I would say is an understandable favourite in here. Is 2-1, best price. But I do think he's beatable, and I think he's very much beatable on this softer surface that it will be at Kempton. It's been raining all week at Kempton Park, so I think it's going to stay on the softer side of things. Obviously, Nickelback won the Sandown race at the Scilly Isles on good ground. Had lost his two races before that, came second to Hermes Elen on good to soft at Newbury when he went down in the John Frankham and Novices Chase, and then obviously became second again to Master Chewy at Kempton just after, and the way we'd lad after Boxing Day, that was on good soft ground. So I think he's a little bit vulnerable on a really testing surface, and is going to bring others into play more so. And the one I really fancy in this at 6-1 would be Le Patron. I think you could take him as a win bet. I'm really quite keen on him. I think obviously he was fourth of fifth of five in the Scilly Isles last night, but I really don't think he's seen to best fit on good ground. I think he needs soft, heavy ground to be a proper challenger. Obviously, Grade One winner in his own right at Sandown when he beat JPR1 and Colonel Harry Ewart, both subsequent winners in Grade Two company. Next time's out in the Henry VIII and Novices Chase at Sandown. In December time, he obviously went off the front that day on really heavy ground and jumped them into submission. Has won at Sandown as well previously over 2 mile 4, so will stay the trip. He's won at Fontwell as well over 2 mile 4, so no issues with the way he's going to stay. I like the way he jumps fences. Obviously made a few mistakes last time out. I just think he was not seen to best fit being held up and on the quicker surface. I think the way he can be competitive in Grady Company is on heavy ground out the front. So hopefully they're going to deploy a little bit more aggressive tactics for him if he does go, obviously. and I think he doesn't have a jockey booked up at the moment. But if he were to go to this, I think it's 6 to 1. He would be definitely my play. Obviously, declarations will come out tomorrow morning, being that Thursday, and you'll get to see a bit more clearly then whether he's been declared, and if he has been, he's probably going to be shorter. But I think he would be the one I'd look to take on Nickelback with. Um, on Saturday, I think even if it's a case of Le Petron doesn't go, it's a little bit of a weaker field in behind. Otherwise, if you've got the likes of Pembroke and Tamoras in there, Blow Your War, Dark Light, for Nicky Henderson, the mare could be quite interesting. But I think, realistically speaking, the best chance you're going to have at beating Nickelback would be with Le Patron. The only one I'd say you could look to take him on with if the Patron is not declared to be Pembroke, just because he will love and very much relish the sort of surface. I would be a bit windy on tomorrow, so after only running 13 days ago, I don't think necessarily he's going to get declared for this. And he obviously lost that race as well when he ended up beaten by Freebly at Exeter on heavy ground. I think it's been quite a quick turnaround. I don't think he'll come here. I'm hoping Le Patron will. He doesn't have a jockey booked, as I can see, but um, which is never a great sign. But I guess you'll find out as of tomorrow. If he is declared, he would be my, I'd say, nap of the weekend. I think I'm very keen on him winning the Pendil's Novice Chase at Kempton. Then just on to the 3 o'clock. So that would be the Dovecote Novices Hurdle, Grade 2 again. That's over 2 miles. Now, the market's headed up by the Sam Thomas trained lump sum. Sam Twiston Davis seems to be booked for the riser. He will be going here at 7 to 4 favourite. Fiercely Proud, Ben Pauling trained Ben Jones combination. They've been absolutely on fire over the last month. He's second favourite at 4 to 1, and then you got the likes of Secret Squirrel and Panjari in behind. For me, I think Lump Sum is going to take all the beating. Obviously, has that form against Jericho de Repene and Fiercely Proud that all ties in from that Doncaster Grade 2, the Rosington Main Novices Hurdle in the end of January. As I said, Lump Sum, and he went down a 1 3/4 length defeat to Jericho de Repene and pushed him all the way. Obviously, Jericho de Repene, most argue, well, some would argue, is British, the UK's best hope in the Supreme. And obviously that level of form is fairly high for a novice company in the UK at the moment. And I would say from a British perspective, he probably holds some of the best form. And I do think obviously he's very versatile from a ground perspective. Will love, I think, definitely prefer soft and heavy ground, having won at Wincanton on heavy ground and Foss last on heavy ground. Um, but obviously ran really well on good ground. And in Doncaster also is ground versatile regardless of how that swings. I think he's going to be really tough to beat. I don't think Fifty Proud can reverse a form from that Doncaster race. But obviously, you can never say never in racing, especially with the form that Ben Pauling is in at the moment. I wouldn't necessarily be putting anyone off that. I did say I think lump sum is going to be very difficult to beat. Whether 7 to 4 is a price you want to be sort of smashing in at, personally for me, it's a little bit too short. But I think he'd be tough to beat in this. I wouldn't be massively keen on Secret Squirrel. He's a beautiful looking horse at 6 to 1, but obviously went down to Firefly at Taunton last time out. Fairly quick turnaround as well from that only being 18 days ago. I'm not necessarily sure if he would get declared. Panjari could be of interest for the champion trainer Paul Nicholls, having won a the Scottish Supreme actually last time out at Musselburgh on soft ground. But again, that's a fairly quick turnaround from that. That would have been at the start of February, only 20 days ago. Whether he'll go here, I'm not 100% sure. But Harry Cobden is already booked the ride, so there is probably potential there. At 13 to 2, he could be of interest, but I'd have to wait until declarations come out for that, and I wouldn't necessarily he'd be a tip. The one I think would be really interesting, depending on whether the ground goes their way, obviously would need to be declared as the John McConnell's intense approach. Doesn't have a jockey booked up either at the moment, but depending if the ground was to get on the back, we had some nice weather from Thursday, Friday, and then Saturday, and the ground got good soft, kind of that range. He could be of interest, but he would need better ground. Obviously, he was a very impressive bumper horse for John McConnell, um, winning his maiden point to point, and then winning 2 out of 3 bumpers at Bellistow and Listowel, before disappointing on heavy ground at Wexford in his maiden hurdle. I don't think he wanted that heavy ground at all. He did end up falling, but I think that was just due to tiredness at the last. I just don't think he really goes on soft or heavy ground with his wins going good and yielding ground. So I think he wants a better surface. So if it was to dry out a little bit, he could be of interest. I think the one at a price though that may be of it, that I would say with the ground heading towards the softer end of the end of the stick, I think it's going to be Helnwein for Alan King at 14 to 1 as an each way squeak. He could definitely um, be of interest and play a part in the race. He's going to love soft and heavy ground, having run up second behind Booster Bob at Sandown on the same day as the Henry VIII Novice Chase. The Patron won. Again, that was really boggy ground where he won then. And looked pretty impressive in that race. Just ended up getting a little bit outclassed right towards the end, but has won on soft ground as well in his novice hurdle at Warwick. So I think he could, at a price, go fairly well here. 14 to 1 each way. I think you be having a fair good squeak on that now. And for me, he would be my pick from the prices at the moment. If you could get through places where you at the moment you would get through places depending on the day, um, what his price looks like, he will maybe be the each way play. Now, just on to the Coral Handicap Chase, which is a Premier Handicap. It's obviously grade three, over 3 miles. Phlegmatic for Dan and Harry Skelton, head the market at 5 to 1. But the one I really do think is going to go well here, and I will put up as an each way squeak, would be Blackjack Magic for Anthony Honeyball and Sam Twiston Davis at 10 to 1 each way. I think back, I mean, not back down in company, he's up in class, but obviously had won the Badge of Beer on reappearance at Wincanton for slightly disappointing Ascot just before Christmas time, when he was fourth of 10 in the Howden Silver Trophy, which is won by Victorino. I thought ran a very respectable race that day, carrying just under top weight. Uh, didn't jump as fluently as he had in the Badger Beer. But he did make a bad mistake. I believe it was two out. He was second, and then had a pretty poor blunder, and obviously had to finish then in fourth. Didn't run really any kind of race, I would say, in the Masters Handicap Chase at Sandown in February, start of February. Again, he did make a mistake when he pecked on landing from 2 out. I think that kind of killed his chances going up Sandown Hill. He was off top weight then as well. I don't think that would have helped any of his cause, but he's been dropped a pound for that, and I think that's obviously going to give him a chance. And that was on both those, the Ascot and Sandown runs were on good ground. I think he wants good soft, soft to heavy, good soft to heavy ground that way down the scale. More so to be seen at best effect, having won a good soft at Wincanton, obviously on Magic Beers Day, one on heavy ground at Exeter over 3 miles, and one on soft ground at Uttoxeter over 3 miles. And he's not one to shy away from a fairly quick turnaround. Obviously, he only ran at the start of February. Um, he did that last year at Uttoxeter. He was pulled up, funny enough, at the 18th of March at Uttoxeter, and then ran the 1st of April over 2 mile four on soft ground and won that. So I think he can be turned out pretty quickly. And I think really he's fairly unexposed as a chaser. He's only really ran, I think, 7 times over fences in total. And I think his mark of 138 is definitely exploitable again for another big pot for the Anthony Honeyball team this year. And I think Blackjack Magic each way will definitely be one to play on at this point in time, because I think he's definitely going to go. And then just looking towards the bumper, I mean, just to give a nod to one, I think at Kempton, obviously the 445 is a class three bumper. I think if Bill Joyce goes here for John Joe and Neil, he'll be a very short price, but he'll be definitely one to watch for the future. I think he's a really interesting type. He does have an entry on Exeter on Friday, so he may well go there. Obviously, we'll find out declarations as of um, tomorrow. I think he may well go to Exeter, but if he does run, he's just one to keep an eye out for, because he's going to be a nice horse in the future for the John Joe and Neil team. And then just finally getting on to the flat, as I said, the Winter Derby at Southwell on Saturday. I'm just going to bring it up here. It is the Group 3, the 320 at Southwell. Lord North heads the market 11 to 4, Military Order 4 to 1, Lion's Pride 6 to 1, Career and Z 7 to 1, as 8 to 1 the field then. Lord North obviously has used a similar race at Lingfield last year as his prep run, before he went to Maidan and won a Group 1. He won the Winter Derby at Lingfield, sorry, the last renewal there, fairly convincingly, beating Carini and C. He was a short price favourite that day. I think this is going to be a bit of a harder job for him, though, especially now he's an 8-year-old coming off a 336-day break. He's done it before, but I just think potentially he's a little bit vulnerable to a younger type, a less exposed type in the market. And for me, I would be very interested in Military Order at 4 to 1 for Godolphin and Charlie Appleby. Um, Looked to be, it was very fairly sent off a very short price for the Epsom Derby back in June. when he would end up actually completely back out of the telly, was last to finish that, well, just last in the field that day. Backed into 9-2 on the day and just really ran no sort of race whatsoever. And then obviously again really flattered to deceive at Chester in September in the listed Chester Stakes, where he just said to not be on a going day there as well. I think he probably had an issue maybe after his Lingfield win, because he has won on the all-weather in May, and then after that he completely fell off a cliff for the run at Epsom and then Chester. Obviously he may have just bitten off more than he can chew in Group 1 company, but in the listed company at Chester, he may not have stayed the trip at 1 mile 6. I just think he may slightly have had an issue just because of how poorly he had been running for the last two. He'd looked a massive Derby hope after he won his novice stakes at Newmarket in October, and obviously went on to win a fairly valuable novice spot at Newbury as well, and has also won on the all-weather. He won at Lingfield just before the Epsom Derby in May. That was in a listed stakes as well there. He actually beat Warrior Pro as well, who was a fairly hyped up horse for Ed Walker. So he has form on the all-weather, and he has also had a prep run for this. Ran at the end of January at Southwell, at the track, over exactly the same distance, and only went down ahead to enemy of Ian Williams, who um, just did enough in the end to battle towards the finish. Similar thing happened last year in his 2-year-old campaign. Now, he'd had the prep run at Newmarket where he came fourth of 10 in a maiden stakes, and then went and won his novices, fairly valuable 9k novice pot at Newmarket after that, and it was a fairly quick turnaround as well. That was October, and then 2 weeks later he'd won and won this. It's exactly the same kind of um, tactic they're using here, and I think he's been completely lined up for the race and will, I believe, take all the beating. So that's it from me there, guys. Everything for this weekend's action. So just to recap, I think obviously depending on declarations, Le Patron would be my nap for the day. Would be my nap for Saturday if he is declared. I'm not 100% sure he necessarily would be, but if he were to be, I think regardless of his price, he'd run a massive race, uh, reopposing Nickelback in the Pendil Novices Chase, and I also really like Blackjack Magic in the Premier Handicap there at Kempton as well at 10-1 each way. And then obviously on the flat at Southwell and the Winter Derby, 4-1 military order for me, I think is going to take all the beating in that. Um, so they're my three, and hopefully we have a good weekend of results. Please comment down below if you have any fancies this weekend, and if you're new to the channel or stuck around before, like and subscribe. As I said, we'll have some more Cheltenham videos coming out in the coming days, and that's everything for me now. So I appreciate everyone's time, and I will see you guys later. Thank you. Goodbye.